Good evening, everyone, to the December 14th Board of Health meeting 2023. Roll call.
Dan Grabowski.
Yes.
Gus Steves.
Present.
Kevin Spillane.
Present.
Jasmine Quinones.
Excused.
Nick Darrow.
Excused. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 3, accept the minutes for November 16th, 2023.
So
Second.
I have a couple of points. Under number 6, I just wanted to clarify, because both of them are actually points that I said, but they came up with weird things in the minutes. For number 6, I said it was not currently a public health nuisance, but that we should keep an eye on it in case it becomes one, because of high rain or whatever. But Concom is currently active. And under 10A, the FEMA overview, that sentence came out really bizarre. It doesn't even, not even a sentence. So I just wanted to say that was about how towns and homeowners can access money and other issues.
I see it.
So, okay.
I will correct that.
And I had no issues with the 21st.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Nick Darrow, oh, he's not here. Kevin Spillane.
Yes.
Gus Steves.
Yep.
Dan Grabowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 4, Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens that wish to come
We
up?
need the 21st, the meeting minutes
Oh,
of
I
the
thought, we didn't do
21st.
the 21st?
Well, we just did this 16th.
Oh, excuse me. Accept the minutes for November 21st,
So,
2023.
Second.
Thank you.
no changes in that.
Thank you. Dan Grabowski.
Yes.
Kevin Spillane.
Yes.
Thank you. Gus Steves.
Yep.
Now, agenda item number 4, Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens that wish to speak? Seeing none. We have a hearing at 6:05, at 6:03. I just would rather wait the 2 minutes instead of having Anna give the presentation, because this might run into
Yep.
some time,
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to go.
so it wouldn't be fair to the Holy Trinity people. We have 1 more minute anyway.
Well, actually, since we do have a minute, can I ask Dan a quick question?
Go ahead.
Did anything happen with that, with looking into the beaver issue on Northwood?
Yes, yes. That went very well. There was an order to correct issued,
Okay.
and the owner/owners were very responsive and are acting on it in an appropriate manner. They're taking it seriously.
Okay.
Hi, Justin.
Hi. It is now 6:05. We have a public hearing for the Holy Trinity. Is having a request for a fee waiver.
Need to be anywhere in particular?
Come up front, please.
It's always better to have somebody come forward because of the way the mics are.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's what I didn't, that's what I didn't know. So, my name is Jean Frost, and I'm the clerk of the vestry at Holy Trinity Episcopal Church on Hamilton Street. Thank you very much for allowing us to apply for this fee waiver for food service. Holy Trinity has enjoyed sharing meals with the community over the years. Any events that we hold are open to the community, including every Sunday. There's time for fellowship after our service, and a variety of foods are available. In conjunction with St. Luke's Guest House and the participants in their Finding Hope program, cooking classes focused on simple, nutritious meals have been offered at Holy Trinity in the past couple of years. Tamsin Lucy is offering those. Our congregation is small. We have a large old building to maintain, and by receiving this waiver, that can be put towards our mission of being the hands and feet of Jesus on Hamilton Street and beyond. We also support food share and local pantries, including the Bridge Fridge. So,
How much is the fee waiver? How much is the fee?
I think it's $200.
200.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we waive the fee for Holy Trinity?
In its entirety?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
second it.
I'll
Second?
second it, I just wanna point out that we cut the fee in half for the last year's,
Yeah, I know
right,
it
for
is.
Elm Street, so we should be fair, one way or the other.
What's going on?
I said, we gave Elm Street half last time, which was just last meeting, so,
That was Catholic Charities, right?
no, that was Elm Street.
That was
Elm Street Congregational,
Congregational, right.
their fee got waived by half to
Half.
200,
Was that
so
the
that they
same?
only had to pay 100?
100.
It's the same thing.
All right, I mean, we would have to, in all fairness, right?
We should be fair.
waive that 100%.
We tried to, because
I just think, in my opinion, any religious body in this church, a nonprofit, shouldn't have to pay fees. I agree with that.
we may want to, that may be an issue that we bring up with the rest of these.
All right, so-
The issues, as we're going to be discussing those later tonight.
Can I,
We may want to do that going forward.
right, no, I agree. May I rescind my motion and change it to, we'll drop it in half to coincide with our previous one. Out of all fairness to the other people.
I understand, thank you
Because
very much.
other than that, we would go
Yeah,
complete
no.
200.
Yep,
And
no, I-
we may end up changing that.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll look into this from now on into
Yeah.
how we do things.
thank you very much, I really appreciate it.
Mr. Dow?
Thank you, Chair, through you. As Mr. Spillane say, the other Elm Street is just business, correct?
No, it's Elm Street Church. It's just,
Oh,
it's
there's
just
another,
their church.
Yeah, it's another church.
So my motion is to
Drop in half.
drop it in half.
I'll second it, since I seconded it.
Gus Steves?
Yes.
Kevin Spillane?
Yes.
Dan Grabowski?
Yes.
Jasmine Canales?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Agenda item number 5, discussion regarding solid waste regulation to support opt-out requirements for the solid waste curbside program.
Can you close the hearing?
Hearing is closed.
Hello. Thank you for allowing this to be on the agenda today. I brought copies of the solid waste regulations for your reference.
Us here.
We're talking specifically about section 4.1
I got it.
to 4.2.1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, this next one.
4-1 to which? Again, please.
4.1 to 4.2.1.
I read all the way through it.
I did too.
So,
I had a whole bunch of questions on the variety, because this is the place that we've been looked at, and hasn't been looked at in years, so. But, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
So the contract is for units, up to 6 units in a building, to have the curbside trash and recycling just as it is now.
Mhm.
However, because there is a cost, there will be a cost now associated with it. Can everyone hear me with the mask on?
We're good.
I'm not sick, I'm just being preventative.
Yeah,
That's fine.
So,
that's fine.
So it's gonna remain the same, but where folks are gonna have to pay for it, they may opt out.
Okay,
So we want to ensure that they have appropriate trash and recycling collection if they opt out of the curbside program.
okay.
So in order to do that, we looked at the regulations to see if it would support us having them prove to us that they have that. And it seems to me that it does. But I certainly wanted to bring that before the board for any discussion and any concerns or questions about that.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, go ahead. I thought when we had the committee,
Curbside
the
committee?
curbside committee, I thought they said, the meetings that I sat in, that if somebody decides to opt out, they have to prove to the town who their hauler is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's
So I
what,
believe that should cover us,
She's right.
on that, that they have to provide documentation who their hauler is if they're opting out of going with the town.
Well, I understand that that it was discussed at the meetings, I'm aware of that. But anytime we require something, it has to be supported by a regulation.
Okay.
Okay, if I'm asking, what exactly is the process for approving one of these alternate collection systems?
We would simply say, tell us who your hauler is. And do you have, is it curbside, is it containers?
Do they have to document it in writing? Like, give us something?
Yes, give us something,
Okay.
right.
One thing I noticed that it's sort of related to those, not in this section, is that there's later on in the regulations, it talks about the haulers having to provide various services, but it doesn't say that they have to put it in writing and give it to us to show that they are actually serving the clients that they claim they're serving.
Well, that is considered proprietary information.
I have some sympathy for proprietary information when it comes to corporations. I don't. Because I want to make sure that we are getting this, our citizens are getting served the way they should be served. And the only way we can know that is if we have the records to prove that they are.
I hear what you're saying. We certainly could ask for it, but I think from a legal standpoint, I don't think there's much that we stand on in regards to that. But I could be wrong.
I think there are circumstances where we can get it and keep it on under some sort of, because our town hall handles confidential records all the time. And they're not necessarily public under certain circumstances. That may be protected, I don't know exactly. That's probably something our town attorney would clarify or not. But I'm sure there are ways that can be done, that we would have records if we need them. But they would generally be speaking not public records. I don't know exactly how to go about that.
Yeah, I'm not
But
really either.
this might be something we want to look into. And as far as curbside, one thing that also jumped out at me is the other section as well, is 5.3.2.2, which I know that we repeatedly see issues with people not having time to put their stuff out if they have to go to work early, for example, and it says they have to be out after 7 a.m. So what I was thinking of is phrasing that so that it shall not be placed earlier than 12 hours before the day of collection. And it already says it has to be taken up by 12 hours after. So that gives it, runs a little longer, but I think it will help some people.
You said after 7 a.m.?
Well, it currently says it has to be out after 7
No,
a.m.
right here, 52.22
Prior.
says, says
Yeah,
prior
recycling
to
must be
7
placed
a.m.
prior to 7
Sorry,
a.m.
prior to 7, but what I'm thinking is but it also says they can't be on the night before. That's all, so I'm trying to say that it should be, give them a little more leeway. Because a lot of people aren't,
Yeah, I don't see where that says that.
and then the recycling, it would also apply to recycling 5.2.3.2.
Where does it say it can't be out the night before?
All I know is when it comes to trash recycling or anything like that, I know when my guy's coming up, my recycling guy comes up to between 11:30 and 12 o'clock every Friday.
Yep.
For the last 20, whatever, plus years, and the same thing with, but there were some people that when they go away, they put them out the night before. The reason being because they can't put them out the next day, but the neighbors are notified of that. The neighbor, you know what I mean, that I'm put on my garbage, and then they bring the bucket in.
7 a.m. the day of collection, but shall not be placed earlier than the day of collection.
Basically, as far as this time limits, they're fine, but I mean, you can put out your garbage anytime you want, because you know when your guy's coming.
Sometimes that's true. I think there are definitely some people who just put them out there and don't get them out. I've seen it repeatedly. Sometimes they'll just sit there for days.
I mean, like tomorrow morning, mine's going out at 7:45. Go ahead, Mr. Dell.
On Worcester Street, Casella go by 5:30, 6 o'clock, all
This stuff is
right
out.
side, when they're coming down, they put it the night before. Because
Yeah.
obviously they pass by very early.
You're not taking stuff out at 5:30 in the morning, dragging everything around.
They should be collecting at 5:30, yeah. That's way too
The
early.
truck go down 5:30, 6 o'clock, they'll already pick up all the truck.
Yeah, people are asleep.
Doesn't that violate our bylaws? They shouldn't be doing it every night?
Yeah, we do have a time limit on it. I do agree, put it out the night before, I mean.
Yeah.
That's fair. As long as they don't just like sit
Common
there days
sense.
and days, yeah.
Right.
So I just wanted to kind of put that in there so that, you know, people don't get in trouble for doing common sense. Well, I was also curious, where it defines under the recyclables definition, it says single polymer plastics, however, not all of them are recyclable.
Correct.
They're labeled as such, but often they're not.
That's right. But for, to not further complicate things, we left that language in.
Yeah. I mean, the system needs to be included in fast phase is well beyond our capacity, unfortunately. Oh, I've noticed also in several, everywhere it has references to loose waste, like 5.4.2, that there's no teeth in there. And people do it all the time. Hey, Mike. So is there any suggestions what we can do something with that? Any thoughts on that?
What's the question again?
Where anywhere it has loose waste, it says it can't be, that they're not supposed to be collecting any loose waste, any loose bags and that stuff. It just says that in passing, but there's no teeth to it. And they either always do it, they just sit.
Well,
They're not supposed to collect it, but they do.
but if I
It's
may,
better than letting it sit there, but.
the only time I see loose waste is like when it comes to the recycling, the recycling containers might be they're full, but, you know, they're closed right, but they might not be able to fit, so it's usually cardboard, but it's,
Sometimes,
Is
I've seen.
right, but it's, where I live, it's done with, you know, with respect and, you know, it's picked up. Whereas composed with with the flap is open and the stuff goes in, then, you know, we got the, but as far as
I've seen
maybe
several-
it blown away or something, is that your concern?
Well, I'm just thinking that the bylaws specifically say that they will not pick up any extra stuff that's loose, and they will not pick up any bag stuff that's just sitting.
Right,
And if it overflows the toters, but I don't see, I'd rather have them pick it up than not, because I'd rather not just leave it in there.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the bylaw also has no teeth.
yeah, okay. I
So
got you.
what do we do? How do we ensure that it actually either does happen or people aren't doing it?
Right, okay, I got you. Kevin?
According to this, Gus, there are penalties. First violation, $50, second violation, $100, third and subsequent violations, $200. If you do not follow, or an owner or occupant doesn't follow or is in violation of Southbridge Board of Health Code of Regulations. So there are teeth into it, there are fines, but it's, the biggest thing that comes down is the enforcement of it.
If I may, I don't like the idea of bags being on the ground either, because cats get into it, rodents get into it, especially those people who leave it out overnight. I agree with that, I mean, something maybe can be done about that.
I think that's a place where we need to start thinking about pay as you throw bags.
Right, good, that's a good idea. Anna?
Well, I was just gonna say that the most effective way to change behavior is not to pick up the trash.
That would be true.
If it's not containerized, so,
The question is, what happens then? I mean, I don't want to see them just letting it sit there and then decide to drive it down the street into one of the woods and just toss it off the side of the road. Because that might be what they do too. I don't want that to happen. There's enough places out there where I see that in those places too.
Mr. Dow?
Thank you, Chair, for you. I think now you can always request a second recycling
Yeah, you can.
ban.
Yeah, you
So if the person know all the time you have a lot of recycling, he can always request a second one.
Well, it's the trash, that's more of a concern.
Thank you.
Oh, and also, where it talks about mandatory recycling, and that says it in several different places, I know that we do some education on mandatory recycling. What requirements are, it does say that the haulers also have to have to educate the public about mandatory recycling. But how do we know that they're actually doing it? Can we have them start sending what they send to their clients to us so that we know that's what they're doing? Because we never get that, we never get their documentation.
can I ask a
Yes, go
clarifying
ahead.
question? Are you referring to other haulers other than the curbside hauler?
Well, if we, yeah, basically, yeah. And Casella too, but, you know, anybody who'd be doing the commercial hauling, any of the 6+
Sure.
apartments, I can sell.
Can't do
But-
that. They pay privately for that, you can't ask for it.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that but that we can have the caller as part of allowing them to operate in our town, that they just send what they just have to send us what they are submitting to their clients. As this is their educational program for recycling, for example. You know, we just want a copy of what you're sending, that's all. We don't care who you're sending it to so much. We're not talking about their financial data or anything. This is what you are sending out to your customers to follow this part of the regulation. That's all I'm asking for. Is that we have a kind of a file saying, okay, Letourneau or whoever is doing this stuff is saying, okay, we have this on file, that this is what they do every day. Fine, no problem.
Mr. Dow?
Thank you, Chair, to you. Steve, I don't agree on that because I have a station and it is not enough to put 2 dumpsters, one for recycling, one for trash. They charge me extra money to have 1 dumpster and you can mix the trash and the recycling. And this is a private hauler. You have no authority over them.
That's all
You
I'm
want to
talking
teach your citizen here.
That's all I'm talking about.
You want record, what?
No,
So you're gonna down extra work for nothing.
No, that's not what I'm asking. In the bylaws, it says that the haulers have to educate their customers about the recycling rules every year. And I'm just saying
The
that.
hauler of the town,
That's
not
what
not
they
the
do.
private.
Actually, the private by law, they do too, by state law.
They can and separate them themselves in
That's
their
all
own
I'm saying.
facility.
But no, that's not what I'm saying, but they have to by law educate, that's what it says. It doesn't say just the town hauler, it says the haulers in general are supposed to be educating their clients.
Yeah, but you look
About
at,
what
we
the
look at
recycling
the
process
town
is.
bylaw for our residents, well, if you step out and you have a private hauler, what's the point? Why you wanna, you can't enforce that rules on a private hauler. Now I step out, you have no authority over me. I can prove for you who's taking my trash and the recycling. Like this, I don't leave them on the street or throw it on the side of the road, but you have no right to ask my haulers where they're doing with their stuff. It's a legal
That's
license.
not what I'm saying.
All right, Rick. Moving on.
I'm just saying that that the state law requires them to educate to educate you about what the recycling laws are every year. That's what our bylaw says.
But why they gonna educate
All
me
I-
if they ask me to put the recycling and trash in the same container?
I-
I need to learn.
I'm not, that's what the law bylaw says, that they're supposed to do this. That's part of
Maybe
the
the
problem.
bylaw for the town or like residents, not the private hauler or businesses. That's the difference. Thank you.
All right, before we, Anna, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna
Because-
ask, Gus, what regulation are you referring to?
Because
The one that says that the hauler has to let their customers know that recycling is mandatory?
That's one of them, yeah. It says it has to be done every year. I don't remember what section it was now, because I read through them all.
Yeah, at least once per year that recycling is
That one,
mandatory.
exactly, that one.
7.2.1B.
Yeah, that one.
It doesn't say that the only education that they have to provide is that recycling is mandatory.
Yeah, exactly, so I'm just saying that it would be a good idea to have it on, sort of have it on file, that when these private haulers are doing it, we just have it on file as part of the record regarding them, that we have what they send to their customers, so that we know that they're doing it. That's all I'm saying.
all right, so, all
I'm
right,
not saying getting involved in how they do it, or we're getting involved in what you were talking about, Joe, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that we have it on file so that we know that they're doing it.
so you just want our documentation to state that they told their customers that they should recycle?
That we have
Right.
whatever it is that they send to their
Right,
customers.
okay, that's,
That's what I'm saying.
Mr. Marquetti?
Sorry I came in late because I was at another meeting, but I'm looking at the agenda says you're talking about support opt-out requirements, so am I missing something there? Are you on a different, agenda number 5 that I'm looking at, or you're not on agenda number 5?
We're on agenda number 5.
And it says discuss regarding solid waste regulation to support opt-out requirements, so are we talking about something else here, or?
We were talking about something else, but we're all set with that. So what's your question?
I just wanted to
Could-
know if
could-
we're gonna talk about the opt-out requirements. Have you already
We
talked
just
about
did, right?
that? You did?
Yeah.
We're still talking about it.
We're still on.
We're still on it.
We're still on agenda item number 5. We
Yeah.
did talk about it, but we're wrapping up agenda item 5 now.
All right. Are you going to also talk about opting in? Or or it's just opting out? Because according to the new plan that we have going, small businesses can also possibly opt in to the program.
You have anything to add to that, Anna?
There's nothing that has been, at least that I'm aware of, that has been decided about letting small businesses in unless they're part of a mixed-use property. But then, even in that, it would only be the residential portion.
So when we had our curbside committee meetings, the representative from DEP said small businesses will be able to opt into this.
I think that was like an idea.
I thought that was part of the law. No?
Yeah, I don't think
There's
so.
no
Because it's an
law.
enterprise, it's an enterprise system now.
Mhm.
So you can opt out, but you can also opt in.
I hear what you're saying. If I could offer something on that, is that we're talking about meeting the requirements of a contract that the town has
Right.
with a waste hauler that specifies who's being picked up. In that contract, it does not list businesses. And there's no solid waste regulation that would require them to be picked up. That would have to be created, in my understanding anyways, in order for that to be an opt-in option,
Okay.
if you will.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Last call.
Thank you. I think probably you mean the 5 family, 6 family, because those considered as a commercial in the past. Now they can pop in, because there's a unit, will go by the unit, but not like a stores or garage or gas station or restaurant. You know, that's a lot of different waste, and I don't think they can put it just in a container. Don't forget, every apartment have a right certain weight to disposal, not unlimited. That's correct.
There's no one.
Well, up to 6 families has been the norm, and that will continue. Does that answer your question?
Correct.
Okay. Moving on now to agenda item number 6.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Mr.
Try to
Chairman.
be quick.
I just want to understand if the board has any objections to us kind of following this regulation as the means that would allow us to document people opting out. If there's no objections to that, we'll move forward in that way.
As in, to go to public hearing for that, you mean?
I don't think there needs
No.
to be, it's already a regulation that
It's regu-
exists. It's just really a,
Yes, and no.
Yes.
if there are no objections, we'll just proceed. I don't think anything else needs to
Oh,
happen.
okay.
That's fine.
But I do have one other thing, if you would
Go ahead.
indulge me.
Yep.
I just wanted to let the board know that this week I filed paperwork to retire. So I'll be retiring mid-February. I want to thank the board. It's been a pleasure to work for you. It's been a pleasure to work for the town for this past 21 years, mostly.
For the record.
So, yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations, Anna.
Congratulations, thank you.
One more thing. When somebody help out and approve the haulers, you know, you have a certain hauler, are we gonna put requirement every year, have to bring the new contract to keep, follow that person up? You know, if I bring a letter today and say, okay, I have a hauler picking up the trash, and then 5, 6 months or 1 year the contract done, and then I don't have a new haulers, how are we gonna protect the trash doesn't be everywhere? Is that something we can add it, just,
That would make sense, yeah.
you know, the least
Annually,
every year
annually,
update,
good point,
who's
good
dropped
point.
off.
Or as necessary, because as you point out, like it's halfway through the contract, or whatever he loses his contract. You know, I think we do need to have it as annually or sooner if necessary.
Right, because you gotta give advancement, proper advancement too. I said we're okay.
Scott, would you like to add anything?
I'd just like to thank Dennis Smith for her years of service, and that the council will not be voting to accept her retirement.
I second it.
Very good, very good.
See you in June.
I see you in June.
Part-time?
I already have a part-time job. Thank you.
No, she's leaving quick.
Agenda
She's
item
done her
number
service,
6,
so we can-
light update, 8 Cross Street.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So presently, the situation at Cross Street is very good. The remedial measures have been taken to remove mixed rubbish, refuse, debris, et cetera, done in a very thorough way. We have posted the property, which is, again, town-owned property. And now the next step is there's a driveway there leading to the back area. We'd like to put a jersey barrier there to prevent from vehicles backing up and possibly dumping. That's really the only access point.
I thought we had already fenced it. That was-
No, we're not.
We walked through it, we talked about.
Yeah, that was an idea. We feel that putting a barrier, again, a jersey barrier, will suffice. And then next, it's really under review again, the demolition part, which will still need further discussions, review, and assessment. So we're happy with the results from our standpoint. And moving forward, we hope that these measures that have been taken will preclude and prevent illegal dumping and accumulation of rubbish and trash.
Okay, moving on, agenda item number 7, old business.
I have nothing to discuss.
Moving on, agenda item number 8, new business. A, discuss issues of Pleasant Street Hill Estates to determine what action we can take to assist residents.
Okay, well, I brought that up, so I'll talk about it a little bit. I was sitting down in Conservation Commission last week, and that's the second I think it's the second time they've actually had residents from that project come to them. The issues that they're having are flooding related, that's causing things like mold and house damage and other issues in their houses from the property that the overall subdivision owner still owns for the most part. And although conservation is dealing with some of the wetland related stuff, and I was talking to the health director in Sturbridge to get some ideas of what we could possibly do. I talked to a couple of people, and he was suggesting that if we wanted to pursue that on the health side, his idea was that we might have the best approach would be to go from both us and conservation and the building department, and kind of, as he put it, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. But within the law. That the building department, generally speaking, the building department and conservation have the strongest case to play at this point. And he was saying that we have a kind of a sort of weak nuisance complaint against this guy because of the issues that go on that are causing potential health risks and safety risks. So I wanted to bring it forward to see what you guys thought about getting involved in the process that the conservation is doing. They've already filed cease and desist orders, are already in the process of going after them for wetlands violations and stuff like that. And I know that Mike Julian has also filed cease and desist orders on the building side. And so I was wondering, as a board, I think it might be helpful to see what we can do as a Board of Health to help our citizens. I was hoping, I had let them know that we were going to do this tonight. I did email the one person whose email that I have, and unfortunately they're not here now. So
Are you talking about flooding that's occurring in the houses, or the overrun of water just coming down that hill overall?
It's coming down the hill, and it has been flooding some of their houses, some of their basements. One of the women who was there talked about having to spend something like $4,000 to get rid of mold in the basement. Some of them were talking about having their foundations cracking because of the issues related to flooding. There are also other issues with the fact that the developer hasn't adequately finished the houses in some cases. And other issues about them not being built properly, which is more Mike Julian's bailiwick. But it sort of loosely overlaps ours. And I was just trying to see if we have some idea of what we want to do about it, if anything, to help our citizens. I thought I'd bring it to everybody. The two Dans and I talked about it yesterday, or last week.
Well, let me start. I think the Sturbridge director's opinion on the matter is erroneous. I think it's quite a fallacy, and I completely disagree. Yes, there may be a public health nuisance, but to go after the builder is not feasible. It's not legally. Now, if we go out there, myself or the inspectors from the health department, and we find and observe a public health nuisance, we go after the owner at that current time, which will be the owners of this dwelling.
Well, it's two.
But we can't go back. We can't go back. We can't go back. That's not legal, and in my opinion, that's not an appropriate position to be in or an avenue to take. So I completely disagree with that statement. I am sensitive to the situation. I've been debriefed on it. I've not been fully part of this. But what I have talked to Mike Julian, our building inspector, and he indicated to me that he and the building commissioner, Ted Tatral, will be addressing the matter. And they are, it's in their purview, in their wheelhouse, and they're taking care of it.
That would be important, as long as it gets done.
No, that's,
Yes, and my understanding, they are on top of it. And I trust Mike to the fullest degree that he's making the progress on it and doing the right thing.
yeah. Scott?
Just a quick comment to the Board of Health. I think the Board of Health is out of bounds for you right now. I think if you look at the codes, which I'm licensed in those areas, the building inspector and the commissioner will take care of the building portions, and the conservation's doing a hell of a job on the wetlands. I was the one that got the phone call originally when they were flooding a person's land because there were no hay bales, and the grading was a terrible grading job. Some foundation windows weren't put in properly for ventilation. When you talk about mold, you talk about the ventilation code. That's in the building code, it's not the health code. It's a stretch to say that there's a health risk right now that's under the Board of Health. I think the building inspector right now has as much power as anybody either to vacate or shut down anything going on that site.
I agree.
And I've been working with a citizen from the street over that got flooded, and that's where the ball got rolling, where we got phone calls. But the builder is definitely suspect. The gentleman is the same guy that owns the Vienna, which is turning into blight if he neglects it a lot longer. But I think the building inspector and the health inspector, our building department are doing a fine job of that. They're on top of it. They cited a lot of different things up there on the building part, which created the problem with the mold part, which was in the ventilation code. So I really think, I think it's a genuine thought to help, but I think right now it's the ball's in Mike and Teddy's court.
That's good, Mr. Health Director.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna move on to item number C, because vote to take any action deemed necessary has been talked over already. So we're gonna go to motions, section C of part 8. Discuss the ongoing planning board hearing on proposed apartments at 40 to 50 Optical Drive and what issues we believe they should address with the project, and draft a letter to the planner regarding those issues.
Okay, I was bringing that forward too, because I've been sitting in on the planning board hearings for the last couple of meetings, and Kevin was at the last one. And I was concerned specifically about the fact that this project is being built on an old industrial site, as we know, it's the AO complex. And there's a track record of them using pretty toxic chemicals in their processes for more than a century. And I was concerned about the fact that if there were going to be a couple, at least 100 apartments going into those two buildings, I wanted to make sure that they were safe enough for people to actually live in, from a chemical point of view, from an exposure to toxins point of view. So I did some homework and looked through the various things that I could find online in the last week or so, and I sent you the memo that I was hoping to send to the planning board with a list of things that I would like to see them put into their conditions, specifically test sampling for both buildings, for a variety of chemicals that are here in the bylaw, that are here in this memo here, that have all been documented as being used on the property over the years, by way either of DEP, EPA, or NIH documents that I found online. And there probably are many others that they've used that I didn't have record of. Some of the thoughts that I heard kind of came part of the discussion you and I were having the other day. And so I was hoping that that this board would support sending this as the Board of Health's input into their public hearing process, so that we can make sure that the developer is doing the following to protect the health of the potential residents, should the project go forward, which it probably will. I am entirely in favor of reusing these industrial buildings. I just want to make sure they're safe to live in. It's a very different situation when you're living there 24/7 versus just working there. And as you commented, Dan, some of the issues that you were talking about the other day are situations that I wouldn't want to be there for short term, never mind.
Well, the concerns about this is over the years that the chemicals
Yes.
that were used, I mean, that building's, I mean, there are many, everyone knows someone that worked in that building. The
Yep.
chemicals might
Yeah.
have been overspilled into the floor. I mean,
The
those old
river.
floors might have absorbed some of those chemicals, maybe the walls or the ceilings. I mean, just, that's the main concern, is how do we know that,
Oh,
you know,
exactly, it's on the land too.
that all that stuff is not saturated with the chemicals that they use. The chemicals, I mean, from acid to, just, my father worked there. I took a tour when I was a kid, and some of that stuff, you could see the fumes coming through the, so the concern is all, the wood, the wood absorbing, the building itself absorbing all these chemicals. I mean, is that like, would that be an issue later on?
That may.
That's just a concern. That's just something to look into to make it safe in the
Sure,
future. 'cause-
and how the board sees it and what their conviction is on this matter is your own. But let me just clear a few points.
Okay.
Where a subdivision is not necessarily a building that's being converted. Subdivision is a tract of land surveyed and divided into lots for purposes of sale, lots. Now, the concerns, many lots can be used as building sites, and some may present an injury to public health,
Yes.
right? So we know that. Any approval by the Board of Health should be on the condition that lots potentially may or may not cause an injury or adversely affect public health, and shall not be built upon without consent of the Board of Health. But caveat here is, and the point is, where we get involved is on-site sewage disposal, septics, town sanitary sewer systems, and wells. That's traditionally where the board gets involved with subdivisions.
But health issues cover.
But health issues can be broad, and the nuisance laws, yes, I do agree. I just want to give you that background. Because if we reference Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81, it states when a definitive plan of subdivision, you're referring to lots, parcels of land. Look at it that way.
I would argue that it's, in this case, they are literally subdividing the building
That-
into apartments.
I agree with you there, but the way it's defined here, again, traditionally, what constitutes a subdivision? It is not a dwelling, a building, it's lots. And that coincides with the involvement of the Board of Health with the really three aspects that I said: septic, sanitary sewer, or wells. Okay? Now, in regards to this building, which I don't have much history on and I haven't been involved, but what I can tell you is I also did reach out to Mike Julian, the building inspector. And he has indicated that the testing for these toxics, these chemicals, is already integrated in the permitting and inspectional process. That's what he does. And it's called a construction review, with all documents are reviewed, and these types of testing do get initiated. I want to bring that forth to that.
What does he typically test for?
That would be a discussion with him. Okay?
Because there's a very long list of things that they routinely they've already found per DEP and in EPA regulations. They've been routinely had to report a whole bunch of them for years and years and years. And although they had permits to, in some cases, release certain amounts legally, which is fine, well, it's not fine, but that's a different issue. But obviously, if they were releasing a certain amount, then they were using a lot more in the buildings. That's just common sense. So I wanted to make sure that these various chemicals that have all of these toxins and so forth, possible toxic effects, especially, we don't know how they interact. I want to make sure that these things get tested for and get, if not cleaned up, at least encapsulated so that the people that live there aren't exposed to them literally on a daily basis.
Are you referring to, in regards to the toxicity testing, a third-party testing type? So if, again, what's done is the building inspector
Yes.
does require testing, okay? And again, all the aspects of testing I don't know, and what are the parameters and the types of chemicals. I cannot let you know that at this time. I can certainly look into that with a discussion with Mike, but that has not been clarified. But again, in reference to what you're asking is another entity, whether it be a industrial hygienist, et cetera, do additional testing with additional parameters, different types of chemicals.
Whatever it is necessary to protect the public health that are people that are living there. That's what I want. You know, and there's this long list of chemicals. You saw the thing I sent out.
I did.
And obviously, since we're talking about that, is not public record. So just I did send it to you, didn't I, Marissa? So you can put it in the record in the minutes, okay. So what I was talking about as far as the process I'm thinking about is, I would like to make it basically document it so that we know, that we can be sure that they will actually test for things that potentially are risky. And which is why I want to submit and get us results, exactly, both to us and the planning board. So that, and I mentioned that in the text too, so that it's part of the planning board's conditions to make sure that this stuff gets done. Because otherwise, quite frankly, I don't want to give it a chance to skate so that doesn't happen. That's one of the issues that actually kind of bothers me, is that I don't know if this kind of stuff was done for the Case Street projects. And it's obviously the same complex. So they were using many of the same chemicals. I don't recall, and I'll get at the time, I wasn't in council, obviously, I wasn't on the Board of Health. I wasn't even part of that process. I think I sat in on one of the hearings. And I don't recall chemicals ever coming up at the time. Had I been on the Board of Health, I probably would have brought it up. I wasn't a player in that particular process.
So we're just basically asking what they're testing for, what kind of, chemicals or whatever. Nothing major, just, the testing itself. Maybe have a hard copy of, or an email of what, the testing for inside the building. Mr. Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Do you really think the Board of Health should be sending a letter to the planning board, telling them what you want them to look into? I think the planning board is separate from the Board of Health, and I don't think you should be sending any letters to them telling them what you want to do.
The planning board process actually requires them to reach out to the other town departments.
I'm talking through the chairman, and I suggest you do the same. Thank you.
Scott?
I think we gotta get a grip on this, guys. The Mass Code, I just got done some extensive classes, and if I took the test, I could be a commissioner. I agree with what Gus is saying as far as the chemicals and the problems in that building area. That's why they created Great Fields funds and all kinds of things. But the building code is what controls all that. Your enforcement code officer of the planning board is the building inspector, the commissioner. When you talk about testing, you're 100% right, I have no problem with what you're saying. The Board of Health is not where it happens. It happens at the building inspector's level. Say lead, like you're gonna build a building, you gotta go for a building permit. That building inspector should run this project through hoops on everything.
I agree.
And the thing is, a lot of times they have hazmat comes in, you do a test, so why are you testing? Because it falls under the criteria of contamination if an oil company was there. When you buy a building, when you do something with it. I think really what you're gonna have to do is, on the information highway, is to sit down with the commissioner, Teddy Gato or Mike, and just get the overview of where are you going with this? You have some health concerns, and they're good health concerns. But the thing is, I think it all falls on that permit process. And I'm not saying you don't have input on that. I think you have to talk to your building inspector. He's the enforcement officer, and he's the one that's gonna give that permit. So if there are concerns, you feed your information into him, and then he carries the ball.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree, because we don't even know at this time what is even being, we don't even know at this time what's even being tested. It could already have been addressed.
Has never been
Correct.
brought to the-
Correct.
So I
Correct.
think it just makes sense to get the information first, and then from there see what pertains to the Board of Health, and then move. Okay. In a,
There's a punch list that the building inspector puts out. Now, that punch list could
potentially
First,
take
on your
care of it,
concerns.
yeah. Who's that? You said Mike?
Julie, yes.
Yeah, Mike.
Okay. D, review Board of Health fee schedule.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So the rationale for placing this on the Board of Health agenda is, ever since I started over a year ago, I felt that the fee schedule is convoluted, needs clarification, and really needs to be defined.
I agree.
Okay? With many different aspects of it. But particularly, my target areas are food establishments, and Kevin really hit it on the head here with regards to religious / nonprofit entities, how that can be handled, housing, tobacco, septic. It really flows in two ways. I'd like to have this reviewed where we can consolidate this and make it more clear. And I can present the board with some examples with the previous municipalities that I've worked with, in which I had a hand in constructing the fee schedules, which were just more, just clear to the point and exactly what we're doing. And I'll give you some examples to start. Is on the fee schedule, when we have asterisk that we don't really know to what they pertain to, but it's a matter of everything from food to tobacco to septics, and I want to just illustrate the point with the septic. When we charge people for a plan review and a separately, you can see it on there, $100 for a septic plan review and $100 for a permit. Well, the plan review is part of the permit.
Right.
You have to review a plan to give a permit. So I didn't understand the logic from the get-go. You know,
Double charge.
it's, you can't do one without the other. So why don't you just integrate it, talking out loud, and make it one simple
Fee.
simple fee. That's an example, and I can elaborate on others as we go. But really, what I'm looking at is if the board members could look at this schedule and be open to establishing a new fee schedule, and again with different with different types of permits that are relevant. Food can be consolidated. Another example with where we have pantry, we have on there grocery store, market, convenience store. All of those can be again consolidated into food service.
Right.
Right, by regulatory definition, these are all deemed a food service establishment entity. It's broken down into food service or retail. just packaged food.
So you wanna
Simple enough.
consolidate some of these into
Yes.
one heading?
Absolutely.
Instead of having
Absolutely.
all these titles that I'm looking at
Absolutely.
right now?
And I think the public would appreciate that. When the director's confused, I'm sure they are as well. That's what I'm asking. Also in conjunction where the fees should be looked at.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And something that Kevin pointed out,
No, no.
with again, referring back to food, how do you handle religious entities, churches, nonprofit ones, food? That's what I really am asking, that's really my rationale. And hopefully we can do that in the next few months.
I was just gonna ask you a deadline.
Yeah, I can certainly proceed with giving the board members my recommendations for review, because I've written down some ideas in reference and in comparison to, again, other municipalities
Yeah.
that I've worked at, for your approval or disapproval. So that's really, again, what I'm asking.
Scott, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to throw this into the mix. Food licenses. At one time, we had a common victualer's license. That was the food license. It's one of the oldest licenses in the United States to serve food and beverage. And they had it for all the taverns, people that traveled. Then there was not too long ago, created a food license at the Board of Health level. And it started out as $100, then it went to $200. Then the town manager created a food license up at the town manager's office. So, not too long ago, maybe 3 years ago, I had to pay 3 times for a food license. And then I said, why, does the left hand know what the right hand's doing? Does the town manager and the Board of Health at that time, and there was a gentleman who was now a counselor who was there to create the food license, Adams. And I turned around and I go, we have 3 food licenses. He goes, well, I didn't know that. I go, that's because the upstairs wasn't talking to the downstairs. Well, I don't mind, I gotta pay for a food license. So the town manager got rid of one of the food licenses out of his office. And then now I pay the common victualer's license in a food license with the Board of Health. Why can't there be one food license? I mean, if there's an inspection of the food license, I understand it. But to have 2 licenses to do the same thing, we had 3 at one time. We're just trying to be in business friendly, consolidate it, streamline it.
Yeah, looks better.
You know, it's not a matter of paying, it's a matter of how many pieces of paper you want to hang on the wall.
Unbelievable.
I concur.
Just to
And
feed it into I just want to throw that on the table.
No, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we have a common victuals license, and I know Richard does a great job as far as inspections. Get rid of one of them, we never had one at the Board of Health until that Board of Health put it in. But I don't think the Board of Health was dealing with the manager at that time. So I just think we gotta get on the same page on a conversation to do what's in best for town.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, for example, to tie right into that particular reference, I happen to notice that we have a milk and cream license. Does anybody ever bother to get that?
this is right here, milk and cream.
It goes back, it must go back to like the
It
1800s.
goes, it's
We had a
one
milk-
that's been on the books for a long,
We
long
actually had a
time.
milk testing office down in the basement.
Yes,
It's been the town clerk's office for.
It is
for a
antiquated,
long
yes,
time.
yes, agreed. And you're right, that's another point. And looking at this where, we should just take a more thorough look at it. Again, narrowing them down,
Right.
the permit types, and then looking at the costs associated with all the permits that we do issue.
And I have a question here about convenience store. Obviously, we have them and that makes sense. But what is a potentially hazardous food? If it's hazardous, it's not food. Right?
Well, by definition, you have non-potentially hazardous and let's just say a perishable food that requires time and temperature control, refrigeration or hot bowl. And not to get too scientific, right, okay.
Boy.
So we're gonna keep this as an ongoing
We have to,
discussion.
yeah, 'cause
Yes.
it looks like we got a lot of categories to hit.
There's a lot of categories in here. Some of them don't make sense.
I wanna keep the milk and cream one, actually.
Okay.
Oh, one thing I noticed that, we want to have like, I noticed we have a seasonal permit, and some of the phrasing says there's a seasonal permit, but the list says seasonal something else. So they're conflicting. But I was thinking, what about one-day event permits?
That's
I mean,
temporary.
especially the
Those are
temporary.
the- those
but
are
it's-
temporary.
But it's not defined in the definitions.
Right, well,
When is
but
that
it is
due?
with,
When is
when
it-
you look at, and you reference the food code, what a temporary food service permit and what a temporary food service
It is in that.
constitutes, right? So that will be covered. The seasonal food service, again, it's just somebody doing food service for the summer. Now, that could be on outside, like a temporary food service, but just done for the entirety.
Right.
Because the temporary food service permit only goes from up to 14 days legal. So the board can allow, instead of us going back every 14 days and issuing this, it can be for the season
Okay.
in certain events and
Could
times.
somebody like that, for example, if it's 14 days, could they do a day for this week and a day next
No.
week and a day next week? It has to be
No.
consistent.
Consecutive.
Because I know some towns allow you to do that, where you can set it up that way.
That's where a
Sure,
seasonal
right,
comes
it's
to
done.
play. There's
I have to do it for my farmer's market.
farmer's market. There's another
There's a
good
farmer's
example.
market
That will
permit
fall
here.
into
That should
a
be
seasonal food service.
Yep.
Other boards will have a farmer's market permit
We have one.
specifically for.
And I have to move it
Yeah.
every time,
Right,
like
you
I
do.
Yeah.
I think we had to extend that to 12 months, because 6 months, I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and sometimes we want to encourage them.
Yeah, but I tend to move around a lot too, so, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to keep track of them. Can get placement.
But yours is now year
Not
round
per- not-
because
remember
you do
when I
the
was just-
Central and the Y.
Remember when I was just seasonal,
Yeah.
and then I was filling out all the time, yeah? And so, but we tend to, move a little bit here and there, so.
And then, again, coupled with the fact that I think the permit fees need to be adjusted.
Oh, absolutely.
uh,
Like, we have a motel fee, but we don't have a hotel fee, we only have one
To
hotel.
meet the times, so
Yeah.
to speak, okay?
We've got a manufactured housing community that doesn't exist. It's not
Funeral
even allowed by our
director fee.
bylaws.
So to my point, it's
Yeah.
it's time. Thank you.
So what are your thoughts as far as, when are you thinking of actually like doing a public hearing or something like this? Are you thinking like sometime in the spring or something?
I'm hopeful, yeah, given enough time for the discussions to have with the board and then proceed with that.
Okay.
So again, just to reiterate, those two components, consolidate, remove, add if needed, I understand, and then the cost. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, agenda item number 9, Chairman's announcements. I just have one, I'd just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I know it's a little early, and a Happy New Year. And I'd like to thank the audience members who showed up tonight to put their input in. That was very helpful. It helped us out as a board. We're always looking for input and help. And we're trying to do the best that we can. We're trying to get our noses into everything, but you can't hate us for not trying.
Right.
And that'll be it. Agenda item number 10, health and records announcements.
I'd like to start by announcing our new health director, health inspector, sanitarian. Yes, already he's doing it. Daniel Fuentes. He joined the health department approximately 2 weeks ago. And he's been doing wonderful. Still in the orientation process. And he's learning. He's learning. He's doing a great job. So we're very happy to have him. We've been without an inspector since May, when Emily left, and much needed. There's a lot of work to be done with regards to housing, nuisances, etc. Curbside now, so the challenge is on. So again, we're pleased to have him, and I just wanted to introduce him to the board. I know you've met everybody, except Jasmine.
Yep.
Hi.
Good to see you. Hello. How are you? Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to join the town. Moved to the town in 2020. So it's good to come to a meeting like this and find out the little minutia that involves and the issues that might arise within the town. I've never experienced a board meeting of this nature, so I'm enthusiastic and excited to kind of hit the ground running. Dan's been a great leader thus far, showing me the way, so I'm just happy to join the town and get entrenched more into the town and figure it out and be able to address all the concerns of our citizens in regards to the health department.
I was curious, Dan, do you have any particular things you're hoping to get him up to speed, actually focusing on?
The focal points will be housing.
Okay.
Will be housing and nuisances.
Okay.
And that will also integrate the curbside enforcement.
Those mattress things.
Sure, and there's a lot to be done. That is a starting point, but we do want to have a comprehensive training process,
Right.
which will entail everything from swimming pools to food.
Mhm.
So in all those public health fronts that we do regulate
We
and
can
are
start at my
involved with are quite large, so.
You can start at my
it-
office and work our way down.
It takes time, I've been there, and he's got a lot of vitality and a lot of vigor, and he's completely open to learning the processes, and that is really what I need. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 11, board members' announcements. Kevin?
First, in regards to the South Street property and the Cross Street property, I was the one who originally started the order of conditions, and I personally want to thank the town manager for taking care of those two properties in a timely manner, and I've driven those properties a couple times. They look great, so I want to thank him personally. He's got a lot on his plate, and I want to thank for that. Second, I was in the area of Snow Street today, those two properties the town owns that are supposed to come down in regards to the fire department going out.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yes.
Can we pick up all those toters that are getting blown around and everything?
Oh.
I mean, there's nobody living in there.
That's a good point, yeah.
There's more? They must.
I noticed in the first house, I think it's a two-family, the brown one, tan one, there's a couple toters sitting there.
There are, okay. We did take some back a while ago. I personally went out there and took those, but
'Cause I noticed
they
after that wind we
originated.
had, they were.
We'll make sure that it's part of the property first, you know, but how many toters would you say are out there that are concerned?
I think I saw 3.
It's doable.
So, and the other thing I wanted to bring up at our last meeting, with the emergency meeting, the one prior, we talked in regards to the director was gonna look at that blighted list and possibly come up with some of those properties that we could possibly do a site visit to, or,
That's a good idea.
you know, I don't know if anything's come of that yet. I mean, some of these properties do fall under our blighted bylaws, whether it's, I know there's a difference between Board of Health and building side when it comes time to vehicles. You know, one side you can have 2 unregistered vehicles, but then on the Board of Health side, if you have a vehicle that's just sitting there and you got trees growing out of it, it goes on the Board of Health side.
Sure.
So I was wondering if we can kind of move forward. You know, we lost a couple weeks of nice weather that we had, that we
Indeed,
possibly could have got
indeed.
out there. And maybe just start acting upon it. There's, you know, a couple of vacant properties on that list that
Sure, sure.
I've had a neighbor reach out to me about it, and, you know, they've maintained their property, and they have one that's unmaintained that's been vacant for quite some time from what I'm told, and
I think I know where you're referring to.
if you could take a look at that list and maybe come forward.
Yeah,
with
I
a
do
few,
have that
and
list. I've
I
added a
thought
few
that
more.
site visits that we did previously between Mill Street and Cross Street and stuff, I think
Oh,
that was
I-
a good thing, so everybody got,
It did work out well.
you know, got to see
find
what it
them.
actually looked like, and,
Sure.
you know, we do have some cold weather coming, but at least if you come up with a list, maybe you know, somebody, you can go on your own time and take a look.
Okay, fair
Type
enough.
thing. At
It's
least
been
when
on
we
my
talk
radar
about
after, following our discussion. I've been waiting for the holidays to clear, so to speak, and if we have good weather, and we can do it in the afternoon because of the darkness. Yeah, I've always found the site visits to be very beneficial. And the last visits we all did with the counselors that were most gracious to come out and assist with that, I think it benefited the town, and we moved forward rather quickly on all aspects. So I do agree with you that they are conducive
Oh, I
to
agree,
this whole
we should
process.
invite
It-
councilors to
yeah,
get their input as
We
well.
love more the merrier, so to speak, and that concerted effort has got us again to good places. We have a list, and I see that happening again following New Year's time. Everything just settles down and schedules kind of
Okay.
are better. So I will put that on my list.
Gus, you have anything you
I
want
just
to
had,
add?
I just had a quick question, actually. I agree with you completely on that one. I was curious, I came across the references to this upcoming year's MAHB training programs. And what's the process for us getting involved in those? I'm assuming that there's something in the budget for training for staff members, for board members?
Not particularly. There can be.
Because I know several other commissions specifically have designated funds.
Yeah, we,
for it.
that,
Of course,
Rachel,
it's mostly
could
on
you-
the budget doesn't matter.
the budget, to my knowledge, is aligned for the health department, not Board of Health. But maybe Maritza could elaborate on that question.
So we do have a line item for dues and subscriptions, conferences and meetings, 2 separate line items. They're down to minimal. I believe we only have 800 left from conferences and meetings, dues and subscriptions, maybe 300. So in order for you to participate in one of the webinars, you still have to register as a member.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get the full rate. You'll have to pay the full rate. So depending on what you want to do, we may pay your membership.
So we would have to, do we have to do individual board members have to be? Or are we?
No,
we're not-
individual.
We're not boards, because like I know, for example, conservation, there, people are on the board, they are automatically, they are members of MACC as long as the town has paid up.
Right, no, as far as I know, it's
Individual.
individual board members. So a membership fee for you, a membership fee for you, and a membership fee for you. And then you pick and choose which webinar or which conference you want to attend.
Okay.
How much is that?
Fees, do you know?
It's $60 to become a member.
It is.
It's minimal.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
And you pay for it?
The town pays for it, yes.
Oh, okay.
So you
Oh,
would
okay.
register, pay for it out of pocket, submit your invoice or receipt or bank check, and then we can reimburse you.
Can you send an email out on
I will.
that? Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Jasmine, have anything to add?
No, I'm good.
Scott, one last,
If I could circle back to Kevin, I just want to thank Daniel and the Board of Health for allowing the council to go on those walks. It's a great line of communication when you need support from us to say, get the money to take down a building, get the legal counsel involved, and I think like when you're talking about the cross street, everybody was on the same page. Well, we found out that the building's attached to another building that somebody else owns.
Oh.
So right away, that's more like, maybe we should just have an abutters auction, and whoever owns the other half of the connected building to the building, give it to them.
Yeah.
Sell it to them, and then in a abutters auction. When they did the, when you guys really pushed on the South Street project, it needed a cleanup, great job by the Board of Health. Okay, a couple egos upstairs might have felt a little pressured, that's life. But the line of communication between upstairs and downstairs is really good right now. And I think we just appointed a dog kennel building committee, and I think that that building is gonna be looked at as a possible option, which would cut the cost, having a built structure of a building already there. And the easement that goes through the private, like there's an easement that comes from South Street. So we're gonna look at all that. And as far as the brick roll, I know that we're in legal discussion right now to the takedown of that building on the options of how to do it. All that would have never happened if it wasn't for the walkthrough that you people put up. Great job. You keep the line of communication. I mean, we want to know. If I got time, I want to be here. I want to hear what's going on, so I can, on the other end, say, support your Board of Health and get it done.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to the chairman and to Daniel and the whole Board of Health.
okay, agenda item number 12, schedule next meeting,
January 11th?
January 11th at 6 PM, Thursday.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Dan Grabowski.
Yes.
Kevin Spleen.
Yes.
Jasmine Canonis.
Yes.
Gus Steves.
Yep.
Thank you.
Motion adjourned.
7:17, the Board of Health meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone for showing up.
Folks.